Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Rant Radio. We are streaming live from North Carolina this week, and the topic that I'm going to be covering today is all about climate and the environment, and I'm going to be doing a recap of my interpretation of the rally that I went to this weekend, which was put together as a coordinated effort from the Sierra Club, 350.org, Idle No More. There were people from Occupy there, as well as lots of other organizations, including the Hip Hop Caucus, and lots of appearances by a few celebrities. So what I want to start off first by saying is that this is going to be a frank and honest conversation, and I feel that the conversation I'm about to have is what was partially lacking from the rally this weekend. But first, before I get into all of that, I want to let you guys know, if you didn't, that today is President's Day. So to start off this rant, with it being President's Day, is directly addressing Obama's State of the Union address. And I'm not going to get into details about the address so much, but more the feeling that I had as I was listening to it in the car on the way here. I had to fight back the eye rolls and the feelings to want to interject and yell at the radio, because once again I felt that the address was a bunch of empty rhetoric, and he is starting to target what people want him to say and what they want to hear, rather than really being honest about what he is going to deliver. And he has become a master at making empty promises and somehow being able to get away with breaking them one by one. And everyone, for the most part at least that I saw at this rally, is still in the belief that not only will Obama stop the construction of the XL pipeline and reject the permits that have already been set up for this Trans-Canada pipeline, which has a huge expanse. This thing runs for miles and miles, and this is a very not only expensive project, but the risk that they are taking in trying to deliver us what is being considered energy independence is not only not worth the risk, but they're not telling you the truth. And I'm going to go over a little bit of what I spoke about when we were streaming live at the rally about that. So what Obama basically said in regards to climate change in his State of the Union address is that he is very fond of wind and solar, and he praised the job creation that has come from more investment in wind and solar. However, he not only did not address the XL pipeline or the Spectra pipeline, the fracking pipeline that is going through a lot of the Northeast, but he praised in a way the natural gas production that is happening. So though he didn't directly address the XL pipeline and the Spectra pipeline, he disregarded the tar sands, and he kind of gave a thumbs up to the natural gas idea, which is through fracking. And this is extremely disturbing to me. It's extremely disturbing to me because I feel that this is not what we are asking for, and I don't think that a lot of the liberals that showed up to this rally this weekend totally grasp what he is saying. And if you can read between the lines, what you are hearing is his attempt at appeasing the environmentalists, the scientists, the climate activists, and really any person with common sense, with talk about wind and solar, which is great, don't get me wrong. These are awesome alternatives to our disgusting fossil fuel industry. However, to use the term natural gas, which in itself is a blasphemous term to use for fracking, in my opinion, he is not really hitting the nail on the head. And this entire rally was not just in response to his State of the Union address, because the Sierra Club has been organizing this for some time, and 350.org has also been working on this for some time, and really drawing attention to our carbon emissions and really the fact that we have to get these numbers down. But I feel that the liberal takeover of the environmental movement is actually counterproductive right now. I am really disheartened by the fact that there weren't more radicals present at this rally. I didn't see as much of a presence of people who are really just for the environment first and foremost, and not about discussing whether or not Obama will leave a legacy behind that includes climate change. I don't give a shit about Obama's legacy. If you ask me what Obama's legacy is, it's drones, it's indefinite detention, and it is the not closing of Guantanamo Bay with countless others of these broken promises that he has made us all lose faith in him. So I don't trust the man. I don't trust the man as far as I could throw the entire White House. And this weekend we marched around the White House, which was empty. Because guess where Obama was? He was enjoying a round of golf in Florida. So it's not even like he was there. It's not even like he could have peeked out of his window at the Oval Office to see 50,000 plus marching on his front lawn. He wasn't even there. And this march was on a Sunday. So not only was the president not there, but the usual business that exists in D.C., the usual flow of traffic of pedestrians and commuters, people going to work, was not there. A lot of businesses are closed on Sunday. So this rally did not seem to be something that was to do any outreach. I didn't get the sense that this rally and this huge production that was put on was to gain any more support and more awareness for what's going on. It felt like, once again, another attempt to get everybody together and give everybody a big pat on the back in the form of a fancy stage and sound system and some cameos from celebrities, and to somehow make us feel like we've already won, when in fact we haven't won anything. I don't feel the sense of urgency. I don't feel the sense that we are in a crisis. And there were only a few speakers that spoke on that stage before we marched that really spoke to me and touched me in a way that I felt their words coming to me, and I felt their sincerity, and I felt their sense of urgency. And I didn't feel that from the liberals. I did not feel that from these organizers of these big organizations that have a lot of pull with their money. And to put on that kind of spectacle that I saw, I feel that the money is not really being put to good use. And yes, it's nice to get 50,000 people to show up in D.C. and stand on the National Mall and come together as the most diverse rally I have ever seen, just from my short time with Occupy. But this is not enough when you're talking about the environment. This is not enough when you're talking about the planet. And that's where I have a really big problem. I'm glad that these organizations are bringing these messages to the forefront. I'm glad that they are working hard to tell people the facts about the Keystone Pipeline. I'm grateful for them, and I appreciate the hard work that they put into this event this weekend. But it's just not enough. It's just not enough, and I don't know how I can convey this to people in a way that doesn't make me come off as crazy or as a radical extremist or as somebody who is just too worrisome. The fact is, when you look at the statistics, they speak a completely different type of tone, and it's the tone that is missing from this movement. This environmentalist movement has been cast aside for years. It's fallen short between other movements, such as the anti-war movement and the civil rights movement, and somehow it always gets swept under the rug as an afterthought. And to me, that's not okay, because before the economy, before we occupy Wall Street, before we try to stop any of the bankers from committing more fraud, before we try to hold any of these corporations accountable, we have to put the earth first. And that means that at this point in the game, considering that the assault on the environment has been going on since the Industrial Revolution, we are running out of time. And we need to start putting our bodies on the line. We need to start protesting in ways that are directly going to affect business as usual. This is the only way that things are going to stop. And I credit the people who were willing to put down their bodies and get arrested for months along the XL pipeline in Texas that hung out in trees to stop the destruction of the forest, who chained themselves to the equipment in New York City to stop fracking. These are are the true environmentalists. These are the people who are putting themselves in the line of danger to show just how dangerous this industry is, to show just how dangerous what we are gambling with is. Water is not a renewable resource, and we only have so many trees left. And considering how much we consume, we must be fools. We are like a bunch of lemmings sitting in a tree, and we're sawing off our own limbs. We're sawing off the limb that is holding us up, and eventually we are going to fall. And I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen soon, and there are too many factors at play that all add up into this crisis. And I'm sorry, but getting 50,000 people to show up in D.C., that's pathetic. That is just pathetic. And I know it's great, and I applaud everyone who came out, and I know it was a beautiful day, and I don't want you guys to get the wrong impression of what I'm saying. I don't want you guys to feel that I'm condemning the liberals for putting this together and attempting to work within the system to try to make some change. But the fact is, Obama has the executive order to do just about anything, and he isn't doing anything at all. So if you think that you are going to attempt to sway his vote, the vote has already been cast, and too much of the pipeline has already been constructed. How many people have already been evicted from their land? How many spills have already happened? How many water lines have been destroyed, leaving people with contaminated water to drink? This is not okay. So to say that we want to stop the pipeline, well, that is true. We would love to end the destruction. However, how are we supposed to undo the damage that has already been done? And what are we to say for all of the indigenous nations across Canada and the U.S. who are once again having their land taken out from under them as if they haven't suffered enough? And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So going back into Obama's State of the Union address briefly, as I really don't want to dwell on him because I honestly think we need to get past him. We need to get past the idea that our president cares about what's in the best interest of us. Because honestly, if President Obama cared as much as these guys actually think he does, and that he is going to be influenced by a 50,000 person rally, well, why didn't he close Guantanamo Bay? Why did he sign the amendment to the NDAA? Why is he stalling on all of his problems that he said that he was going to help address? And where are all those tough decisions that he talked about in his first campaign? I am tired and fed up in believing that that puppet in the White House is going to do anything good for me. Until he takes every drone out of the sky and he brings every troop home and he stops meddling and using Israel against the rest of the world, I don't really see a change. So no, I don't agree with the liberal agenda, and I have a problem with this constant liberal takeover of a movement that belongs to all of us. This movement is the people's movement because the people share this earth together. Mother Nature is the executive order over all, and that is what people have a hard time understanding. It's hard to admit that you can't control the world you live in, but we think that we can exploit it and we continue to rape and pillage it and that there will be no repercussions. So I'm going to get into a few of the key speakers from the rally, because I want to just hit a few of the people who really spoke to me and a few of the ones that honestly I felt it was more empty rhetoric. It feels like these guys are all cut from the same cloth, and they all get up on their podium and they all speak in the same way. And I want to know what happened to the speakers that spoke with passion and with fervor and with a sense of that urgency that I was talking about. Where are the speakers who are up there pounding on their podiums because they want results? That they're yelling from the hills because this is such a crisis that it is not a time to play nicey nice. This is not a time to try to negotiate. There is no time for negotiations. The earth is at risk and we don't have a plan B. So again, before I get too fired up just yet, let's start hitting up some of the key speakers. So the Hip Hop Caucus was there, and they were the livelier of the bunch. We had a great MC. He kept the crowd going, and it was 36 degrees out there, so I was appreciative of some of the loud boom boom music that we got to listen to in between the talking. So we all got to jump up and down, and the MC did a great job, and I'm forgetting his name, and I do apologize. We did stream the entire rally, though, so if you did not catch it, please watch our stream. There's only a couple spots that it might be a little shoddy, because something kind of weird happened while we were streaming, and I just want to quickly mention that to you guys. Most of the speakers kept their speeches pretty tame. There was really no attack on Obama and his policies and his lack of follow-through so far regarding climate change. He seems to be waiting for somebody else to sign the documents for him. So nobody was really addressing that until the indigenous tribal women spoke. And they were the only ones who got a little bit criticized on stage for their time. And it seemed like only when they started talking about Obama and really bringing up some of the faults in the policy in America and how this parallels what's happening in Canada, all of the streamers had some difficulties, and all the streams went down simultaneously, and this happened a couple times. And it seemed that whenever Obama was directly addressed on stage is when this strange shutdown or jamming of our channels happened. So call it a conspiracy, call it what you will. I just thought it was kind of strange. So the Sierra Club is one of the major organizations that was there, and I think they put in quite a big bulk of the funding, and they've been around for over 120 years, working to conserve land and raise awareness about environmental issues. And Michael Brune is the executive director, and he was actually one of the 40 or so that were arrested just this past week participating in civil disobedience in front of the White House. Now, I love civil disobedience. I'm all for it. I think that if it's done well and the messaging is good and clear and spot on and you've got some attention, I think it's a great way to draw in viewers and awareness to your cause. However, that's just not enough. This can be one of many tactics. But the Sierra Club seems to be gloating a little bit about the fact that they got 40 people to participate in a civil disobedience in front of the White House. And what I'd say to that is you guys should spend some time with Occupy, because we don't even try to get arrested, and we do. And so whether it's just our existence in and of itself that is civil disobedience, probably, I would agree with that. But I think that the Sierra Club needs to get over themselves a little bit, because I'm not going to be celebrating because you guys decided to stand up against the White House fence and quietly get arrested. So good job, but we really got to get past the civil disobedience and get on to some real direct action. So that's my opinion on that. And, the Sierra Club is the one that's really campaigning. They kind of formed this whole campaign forward on climate. So it's playing off of Obama's own rhetoric. And even they went so far as to make a logo symbol that is very similar to his campaign symbol. And instead of the look of the path and the sun rising over the path, it was a hurricane emblem with the same kind of lines and saying the forward on climate. So very cute, very nice, easy to recognize. But honestly, I refuse to wear one because it looks too much like an Obama pin. And I am not an Obama supporter. I do not participate in this bipartisan bullshit policy, political machine that we have here. I don't involve myself in it because it's completely, utterly corrupt, and I know my vote doesn't count. Therefore, if I know my vote doesn't count, I'm not really going to expect Congress to suddenly get their shit together and Obama to suddenly change his tune based on all of his prior, setbacks and lies and broken promises once again. So I part of my support for the Sierra Club falls a little short, and it's not just about Democrats. There should be Republicans that are outraged about this. Not every single Republican has a stock in the oil industry. Not every single Republican has a stock in the fracking industry. I'm sure there's someone out there who cares about our trees and our water and our land besides the Democrats. But that was what the rally was dominated by, was the Sierra Club's little fan club. And especially the founder of 350.org, whose name is Bill McKibben, he's become quite a celebrity. And when he went to speak, there was so much cheering, you would have thought that Justin Bieber got on the stage. And I feel that while it's great for us to support these founders of these organizations that are trying to push us forward in making some changes, I just don't like the fact that we idolize these people to this point, but we're still disconnected from the issue. So we stand there and we watch this great man speak, and that all sounds well and good, but do we go home and change our habits? Do we go home and decide we're going to use less? That we're going to turn off the faucet while we brush our teeth? That we're going to turn off all the lights when we're not using them? That we're going to try to convert our houses to other forms of energy? That we're going to drive our cars less, or if nothing else, carpool? And that we're going to actually recycle everything we use? Or not take those plastic bags home from the supermarket? These are ideas that have been suggestions and ways that we can all reduce our impact on the earth. But do people take this into account? My only feeling that people are more considerate of the environment is that at least after the rally, I could count the amounts of garbage on the ground on one hand. So that was nice. But I just don't feel it's enough. And I don't know how you guys are feeling about it. Because, again, the rally was beautiful. The diversity of the crowd was great. It is one of the first times that we've been able to see all shades of brown and white and yellow come together. But my God, if this isn't the issue that brings us all together, then I don't think there is anything that will bring us all together. We all live on this planet. We all need it to survive. It should be a no-brainer. And that's why only 50,000 showing up is kind of sad to me. Because if 50,000 can show up in the freezing cold to D.C., why can't they take that bus and go down to the XL pipeline and see it for themselves? Why don't they take a bus up to New York and see where the pipeline is coming right through the village? Why don't they go to Pennsylvania and talk to these farmers who are losing all their land because of eminent domain? Is there any connection to the people who are being directly affected? Or are these people all coming out just to have a good time and to enjoy some speaking and some entertainment and go on a nice casual parade walk around the White House and take a few pictures? Oh, wow, we had a great day. I got great photo ops with Rosario Dawson. Yay me. This is not enough, people. This is not enough. When are we going to wake up? When are we going to wake up? I mean, this is what I'm talking about. So you've got Bill McKibben from 350.org, and I just want to go in a little bit about what 350.org is in reference to. So the term 350, it comes from the atmosphere concentration of carbon dioxide in parts per million that is considered by climate activists and scientists to be the safe upper limit for where we can allow our carbon emissions to reach before we start affecting our climate and dangerously heating up the earth. So currently it's above 395. So sorry 350.org, we're already past that. And I don't know how you take carbon out of the air when it's already been thrown up into the ozone and it's being produced at such an alarming rate. But the idea is cute and nice, and I get it. So kudos to you. And 2012 was the hottest year on record in the U.S. So we're definitely seeing the impact of this 395 parts per million. However, what do we do about it? I think that's the thing, and I think that is the biggest issue I had at the rally, is that I didn't feel the call to action. I felt it was too much about, we are all on this side, and over there is President Obama, and all he's got to do is take a flick of his pen, and he will start changing everything, and he will leave this legacy behind as the president that saved the planet, right? Yeah, because he's Captain America in his spare time. It's not going to happen, people. And this is why. I'm going to get into the speaker that I actually really, really cared for and who really struck me the most. And it wasn't just her. It was really all the indigenous women that spoke. These women came down from Canada. They're members of the First Nations tribes. And the one I want to mention is Chief Jackie Thomas. And she is one of the chiefs of one of the First Nations. And she is the co-founder of the Yinka Dene Alliance, and I hate to butcher this stuff, but the language is so foreign to me. But the Inca Dene Alliance, she formed, and she has been a pioneer in her territories in Canada, really trying to bring all of the indigenous tribes together in an attempt to fight back against what is really considered an act of war. And they, because of their treaties, they have a huge obligation to be protectors of the land and water. They are the keepers of this earth, and this earth belonged to them long before it belonged to any of us. And they stood firm in Canada while all the colonization swept through during the early pioneer days of the Americas. And she stands here today talking at the rally, ready to throw down her life and her body because the bulldozers are coming for her home. And where she lives, the cowboys and the ranchers have already had their land scooped up and taken away from them, and they are being brutally evicted from their home, from the very little land that they have left. And their story is utterly tragic, and if you know anything about the history of the indigenous, you know that this has been going on for centuries, and it is what I consider one of America's dirty little secrets, because nobody seems to want to talk about it anymore. And it was really not until the Indian tribes themselves came together and said, we are the ones that have been idle, and we will be idle no more. And so this movement has begun, and it is really starting to gain ground and momentum. And the beautiful thing about it is that it's not just about the indigenous, but they are reaching out to all people who can come in solidarity to support their efforts in protecting their land and saving what little they have left of it. And I want to read you a few quotes that I took from her speech at the rally. So one of the things that she said that really stuck out for me is she said, oil will spill, it's just a matter of time. And the fact is, she is completely right, and we've already had so many oil spill accidents between Canada and the U.S. We can think of the most famous ones, such as the Valdez spill. We can think of the BP spill in the Gulf, which were horrific in themselves. However, we can't forget about the spill in Kalamazoo. And this one is pretty bad, because Kalamazoo is only about 50 miles, even less possibly, 50 miles from the Great Lakes. Now, we have already pretty much destroyed the Great Lakes. If you know anything about the ecology there, we have done serious damage to that natural water source. But what is being said is that the oil spill that happened on land in Kalamazoo cannot be cleaned up. So this oil will inevitably seep into the watershed that feeds into the Great Lakes, and we could see even further damage to what is also a tourist attraction, and lakes that lots of people live around, that people boat on, that people swim in, not to mention all the wildlife that resides there that has managed to survive our endless pollution. And then there are spills that have happened in Red Deer, Alberta. There are spills that have happened in the Northwest Territories, among many others. And Jackie spoke about these as she hears about them from her neighbors of the accidents that are happening. And cleaning up oil in water, they have some rickety systems that they use to clean up the oil in the water, and it never really gets all of it, but they attempt to contain it and to funnel it out. But when it happens on land, what is really there to stop it from just seeping into the earth and a good rain taking it far, far away and contaminating everything in its path? There really isn't. And that's one of the major issues right now, is that this pipeline has come through Canada, and the indigenous people are feeling it the most, because it is their job to watch out for these resources, and they feel such a deep connection to Gaia that to let this pipeline go through ignored rather, and not addressed and not fought against, it goes against everything they believe in. However, she did say that their tribes have never ever consented to this project. So right away, the XL pipeline is a blatant violation of the treaty. It's a blatant violation of their rights and their obligations to have full transparency before they give any consent to the use or use of their land, taking of their land, they are supposed to be consented, and the Canadian government is pretty much hell-bent on having all of the legislation they need go through with no consent from the public, and especially no consent from the First Nations. So she stated it herself. The First Nations are always expected to be the sacrificial lambs for the government in terms of the economy. She says, and I quote, "Like the economy is a human being. Like the economy is more important than our land and water." And she's jabbing at our economy here because really, if you look at the way America works, we have created all of our wealth. If you put aside the military-industrial complex, the prison-industrial complex, most of our wealth and power has come from the exploitation of our own natural resources, through mountaintop removal, through the destruction of our forests, through the extraction of all of our natural aquifers, from the disgusting process of extracting the shale gas to then go into natural gas production. And not only now, we are talking about the carting of dirty tar sands, not only through Canada, but down through the U.S. to then be refined and exported out. So what people have to understand is that not only has America never truly been energy independent or sustainable in any way, but we never will be at this rate. And this is the hugest misconception about the Keystone XL pipeline, is that we are so hell-bent on furthering our economy, restabilizing our economy, getting more income flowing in. But this pipeline will not benefit you or me, or really anybody who's living in the U.S. that doesn't already have stock in this pipeline, or doesn't have their dirty hands in the oil industry itself. The gas and the oil that we're talking about, most of it will never ever reach your gas tank. So if you're hoping to get a gas price decrease or a break because of this pipeline, you can forget it. And it is because what they do is all of the crude tar sands oil comes down out of Canada, and it gets sent to the Midwest. In the Midwest, they work on it, and then it gets shipped out to more refined refineries, where it is turned into a better product and is then sent into other markets such as Latin America and Europe. So in order for us to get that oil back, it has to be imported back to us, which is going to cost you. So there is no gas increase because of this pipeline. All this is doing is trying to keep America afloat. We have turned ourselves into the middleman in an attempt to profit a little bit off of the exchange of oil from Canada to other nations. And this is simply not a sustainable way to do business. To constantly be the middleman, where you're relying on the source and the buyer, you can't stabilize an economy on that. And that is not even to say whether the XL pipeline is unsustainable or not. If you put all of that aside, this is just bad business. And there was even a billion-dollar investor who spoke, which I found kind of interesting, at the rally. And he said, in his own words, that the XL pipeline was a bad investment. So you do have some rich one-percenters who are coming out saying that this is actually really a bad idea, and we look out for things that are good ideas to make lots of money off of. And we don't agree with this one, and we're not going to be investing in it. So that's kind of interesting. But again, it doesn't really matter because all of this has already been spoken for. This pipeline has already been spoken for, and they don't care what you or me or the indigenous people have to say about it. And that is the reality of it. So where are we at? We have been protesting about the environment for years. We have been warned by the top scientists that this XL pipeline means literally game over for us if its construction is complete and it continues. That the possible rupturing of this pipeline would be so catastrophic, it's like a carbon bomb going off in the middle of the country. And you can forget our aquifer in the Midwest. You can forget about our farming land. You can forget about the wildlife. You can forget about almost all of our natural resources being able to be destroyed within seconds with this pipeline. Where's the sense of urgency? I mean, just the idea of it rupturing is enough to send chills down my body. I will never forget the image of the BP oil spill and the hemorrhaging of that pipe underwater as you watched for hours and hours as this oil just blew out of these pipes, unable to be contained and flowing into the Gulf. And I was living in Florida at the time, and even though I was on the East Coast, the panic and the perception of the oil being so bad destroyed the economy in Florida. The Gulf is still trying to recover from BP's damage. And if you believe any of that propaganda that BP puts on the commercials saying that they've cleaned up Florida and that they've done so much to restore jobs and restore businesses, it's all a bunch of bullshit. They have bought their way out of one of the biggest catastrophes, and all this did was basically give them a slap on the wrist. Nobody seems to want to investigate them for the lack of regulations that they got around. Nobody seems to want to investigate for faulty equipment. And who is to say that if BP was able to skirt around these regulations and these equipment inspections that never happened, what makes you think this pipeline is going to be so safe? What makes you think that that is going to be any more secure than BP's rig was? This is the stuff that we need to be talking about. We need to be talking in apocalyptic terms because that is how bad it is. And I did not get that sense in the rally, and I left there cold and frustrated. And as much as I loved hearing from women like Jackie, it brought tears to my eyes because at the end, what she was really asking for was help. She was one of the only ones who stood up there on that stage and asked for people to act, asked for people to come to Canada, asked for people to come lay down with her when those bulldozers come for her property. That is what she was asking for. And if people are not willing to act, then you ain't worth a damn. And that's how I feel about that. So that's how she felt. She wants the end of this pipeline. She wants the end of the destruction on Gaia. And I am with her 100%. And I actually was very, very lucky that at the end of the march, I actually saw her standing off to the side of the march. And I was able to go up to her and ask her for a hug. And when I asked her for a hug, she said, I could use all the hugs I can get. Robert Redford had something to say about the rally before it began. His quote was, and this is what gets me really fired up. This is where people's minds are, guys. And this I took out of the Huffington Post. I quote, President Obama's legacy will rest squarely on his response, resolve, and leadership in solving the climate crisis. Really, because it doesn't all fall on that one person. It actually falls on thousands of us deciding we're not going to take the assault on our Earth anymore, and we're actually going to go down there in numbers and block their roads, block their pipes, block their machines, block their bulldozers, stop their chainsaws, march into their offices, and demand it end. That's what they need to do. But if they're not going to be able to do that, if people are not willing to put their own little petty lives aside and start focusing on doing some real work, some real activist work, which takes bravery, it takes guts, and sometimes it takes a little bit of money in your bail fund. But that to me is what is really going to make a difference. And I think it is the only thing that has helped put a delay and stick a wrench in this operation. It's not having rallies. It's not having parades. It's not having little cute acts of civil disobedience. It's let's get real and let's be as angry as the earth is. Let's be as fiery as the earth is and as thunderous as the earth is. And let's bring the monsoon of the people's resistance against this assault on our well-being and our children's future and their children's future. Let's take it as seriously as we would the kidnapping of an unborn child, because that's what they're doing. They're taking away our future. I am terrified to breed children into a world that I know has no safe water to drink, has no clean air to breathe, has no safe food to eat, that hasn't already been genetically engineered, not in my favor. I don't know how we bring another generation into this world. And I feel that the youth need a serious jolt. They need a serious reality check. And I'm happy that there were a lot of youth that came out to this rally. And I applaud you guys. I'm happy that you're starting to get it. However, it's not enough to make your university fossil fuel free. Our universities should already be fossil fuel free. We are far behind in this game, and that's what we need to realize. If you look at how other nations have already taken the initiative years ago to start counteracting their impact on the environment, you would see that the U.S. is slowly and steadily falling behind day by day in our unproductivity, our inefficiency, and our pollution. So it's not enough to just ask the president. You've got to turn around and ask yourself, is this world worth it? Is your health worth it? And can you ever just decide one day to turn off the TV, turn off the radio, quit your stupid job, leave a school if you're not doing what you love, or even just take a semester off and go down to Texas or go to Oklahoma, go to the Dakotas, go to Jackie's front door and say, I am concerned about climate change and I know how severe it is and I cannot sit idly by anymore. That's my question to you. And the youth is really the only chance we have. If the youth can wake up enough to see that we need to get beyond the rallies and the fun music and the marches and all that great stuff, which is all good, but I think we're celebrating a little too early. It's time to roll up our sleeves and get our hands dirty. It's time to start putting together real forms of peaceful resistance. We need to be peaceful, but we need to stand firm. We cannot give in to Obama's rhetoric as a means of appeasing us. We cannot give in to Congress's lack of being able to decide a goddamn thing. I don't know how they tie their shoes in the morning, honestly. We cannot wait for these liberal organizations to tell us what to do and where to go and how to talk about it. We need to go to the source. See the destruction for yourself. There are plenty of people, and I did meet a few who did come out to the rally who are being directly affected, like Jackie. I spoke to one lady who lives in Pennsylvania. She's a farmer, and she is the last man standing in northeastern Pennsylvania. The pipeline has come through, and it's only a matter of time before eminent domain comes for her. And she was very cheery and hopeful, but she had petitions in her hand. And she was going around trying to get signatures for this petition to beg Governor Cuomo to stop the pipeline and to save her home and the homes of her neighbors. And I feel so bad for these people because they still are under the belief that somehow these officials will come to their rescue, that somehow these people that we elected will see the light and start enacting policies that reflect what we so desperately need. And even if the temperature of the earth only rises a degree or two, and we start seeing more earthquakes and more storms and more droughts and more water shortages, I don't know if it's going to change our policy. Will it really end fracking? Will it really end tar sands production? Will we suddenly all come to our senses and abandon our cars and adopt a life that is more sustainable and less impact? I don't know. I honestly don't know how bad it's going to get before people jump up and realize it's bad. I hate to see it get any worse, but I know it will. And that's not me being negative or defeatist. It's me analyzing the information and me feeling like it is my obligation as what I believe a journalist should be, is not to sugarcoat things and not to choose my words carefully so that I paint a different picture for you, so that you're not as worried as you should be, so that I'm trying to keep you calm as you watch this segment. I hope that you come away from this more angry and more burning in your commitment to standing up against what is destroying this world for all of us. And if we don't do anything about it, then we only have ourselves to blame when the faucets are aflame and the water is no longer able to be drank and the food that we eat is poisoned, which it already is. But whether you guys want to adopt a completely Monsanto GMO-free life, it's time's running out. So it's again the sense of urgency, and that's what I wanted to get across to you guys, is that, you know, I went through a wave of emotions this weekend, and it's been an emotional ride on this bus tour as it is, but it was a reminder that even though I will always occupy Wall Street, and I will always fight for the awareness of what the corporations have done and the hijacking of our so-called democracy and the political political puppet game that goes on in the White House, as important as all of that is to me, nothing pales in comparison, everything pales in comparison, rather, to how dire our Earth's condition is and how dire our options are at this point. We need to stop the pipeline, but as hopeful as I am, I know that all of the cards have already been dealt, and the papers have been signed, and I don't see Obama stopping such a huge project that has cost so much money already and is what is being argued the answer to our energy crisis. You know, we'll see. We'll see. And if he decides to pull some miracle and do some veto magic on this atrocity, that's all well and good, and I will definitely celebrate that. But he can't undo the damage that's already been done. He can't undo the countless families that have had to leave their homes. He can't undo the indigenous population that continues to suffer at the hands of what I see as more colonialism, more imperialism, and more of a colonization of their homes, which is not to build facilities, it's not to build hospitals or banks. It is simply to run a line of filth through their land, destroying everything in its path. We can't let this happen. We have already let it happen. We've already let it happen. And we need to sit back and take that in. And we need to forgive ourselves for our complacency. We need to forgive ourselves for our past apathy. We need to forgive ourselves for not being as involved as we were, because that's what I had to do for myself. But we need to start working on this, and we need to start acting. And I have committed myself to being on this bus tour, and I will be laying down my body on the tar sands pipeline wherever I find the first pipeline, and I will protest it myself, and I will have my voice heard, and I will go there to the source and see it for myself and experience it. And maybe someday I will make it to Canada, and I will be able to see these indigenous lands, these territories myself as well. And maybe someday I will even be able to join a tribe, because that's something that Jack and I both have been milling around in our heads, that we were so inspired by these people who actually have a true and real deep connection to the earth and are doing something about it, while people in our country just completely take it for granted. And people have lost the will to fight. People seem to just prefer to watch the TV and say, oh, that's so sad. Oh, that's so terrible. But then we can just flip the channel, right? And it all goes away. All of those lines of pipe, they all just vanish behind the next commercial. Or the next natural gas commercial even. So we're constantly being bombarded with the brainwashing and the soothing and the calming that the media has on us. This sense that, oh yeah, this is for your own good. Just keep signing your rights away. Keep signing your health away. Sign your well-being away. And just keep turning a blind eye. We'll keep that entertainment up there, front row and center for you. And we'll mix in a few facts, but mostly lies. And, oh, are you going to start panicking when you can't go food shopping? Well, now martial law is coming, because that's what's going to have to happen. You see, when this pipeline gets done, a rupture or a spill is inevitably going to happen. And natural resources will be compromised. And the next step will be outrage and chaos from the public. People are not prepared for what could happen. People do not have food stored. They don't have water saved. They don't have alternative forms of energy already mounted onto their homes, so that if the power grid goes out, you can still function. Most people can't go a day without their cell phone. God forbid the cell phone towers get knocked out. All of these kinds of things could easily happen as an escalation from one serious accident along this pipeline. One carbon bomb, to say. And I think it's time that we start thinking in that mindset. I think that there is something to say for the survivalists and the doomsday experts who are training and preparing. And not that I want to spend my dying days in a bunker, not being able to go outside and breathe or go down to a stream and bathe. I'll probably just kill myself before that. But before that gets to that point, I think it's important that we all take that into consideration and how much we are actually dependent on the pipeline indirectly. And really start drawing that map out of how much of your life is affected by this pipeline. And maybe it hasn't come into your town yet, but it inevitably will come to your town in one way or another. And that's either in raising gas prices, a shortage of water, and the raising of that price. All of our natural resources will become hot commodities, and corporations are already buying up the rights to them. The land is being bought up. And Jack and I, one of our dreams is to buy a piece of land out in the Midwest somewhere. Either maybe in Montana, Dakotas, Colorado, who knows? We've batted around a bunch of ideas. But if you really sit down with a map and you look at how much of the country is left for the buying, there's really not a lot left. And it doesn't really matter because we could buy 80 acres of land in cash. We could have the property taxes paid in full for 2 years. If eminent domain comes walking in, your land is not your land. It's their land. And that's something we also have to consider is that will there be anywhere for us to go? Where will the homeless go when all the land is scooped up? Where will the farmers go when all their crops are contaminated? I don't know. These are questions that I ask myself all the time and have to resort to other means to self-medicate and calm myself at night because it's hard to sleep when you have all this swimming around in your head. It's hard to sleep when you think big. It's hard to try to have a normal life when you start thinking about this all-encompassing crisis that is affecting not just Canada and the U.S., but it's actually affecting the global markets because now Latin America and Europe are depending on us, and we're depending on Canada. So there are other nations besides the U.S. who are being impacted by this. And if they are being dependent on this oil to come through the U.S., what are they thinking about it? And how do they feel? And how much do they really know about the kind of damage and the price that we will all pay for this pipeline's construction? I'm not really sure, but what I do know is that this probably won't be the last rally or march that the Sierra Club puts on. I think that they're just getting started, and I'm interested to see what the wave of civil disobedience will look like. I'm hoping it starts to look a little bit more radical, but I'm not getting my hopes up. So I'm going to put the call out to all the radicals out there, all the anarchists out there. You guys seem to be more in touch with the earth than the liberals. The liberals think that you can actually work through the White House and get things done. We know, as people who have had our views marginalized and oppressed for centuries, that we can't sit idly by no more either. And even though we may show up with our black flags waving, demanding that the liberals stop sitting on this movement or co-opting it, or depending on this bipartisanship to do anything for them, we need to act too, and more of us need to start mobilizing and setting up camps and really laying our bodies down, because I think we're the only ones that really have the guts to do it. And most of us, because our views are so pushed off to the side of extremism, we don't have anything to lose, and we only have more to gain. And when you're so far at the bottom of this trench that we've dug ourselves into as consumers, stop digging. Let's crawl out of that hole, and let's start forming some real actions together. And I'm hoping that once Jack and I finally reach the tar sands pipeline, which will happen, we will get there, we will get to talk to some of the people who are in the same mindset. And it's not to say that people who believe in the democratic system are wrong, or that being a Democrat is wrong. We are all welcome to our views, and I'm not trying to condemn them. I'm just trying to say that with the push for diversity, we also need to be willing to accept diverse views into this environmental movement, because it is not just about the liberals. It is about all of us, and it is about people who don't identify with any political agenda. It is the people who are simply farmers and residents, and people who enjoy trout fishing in the Delaware, and people who enjoy being able to see mountaintops, and people who enjoy being able to get clean water and breathe clean air and see the stars at night. This is everyone's fight, and I don't want it to feel like we're not allowed to have a voice in this environmental movement just because the liberals have so much financial backing, because that's always what it comes down to. The one with the biggest voice is the one with the biggest pockets, because as you all know, money is free speech. So we need to step it up. We need to come out of hiding wherever we've gone. All the thousands that I used to see rallying around Zuccotti, where are all of you? And if you can't come back to Occupy Wall Street and you think the movement's dead and you think it's all been corrupted, then by God, get on Idle No More's bandwagon. Because these guys are not only preaching the message of Occupy Wall Street and tying the greed to the destruction of the planet, but they were here first, and they are the true occupiers, because this land belonged to them. And it was us, the American colonialists, who came in and wrongfully occupied their land and stole it from them and killed their people and pushed them into camps and segregated them out of the community. We did this. Our ancestors did this. So yes, we want to reclaim space. We want to reclaim public space. But we also need to remember that Mannahatta belonged to the indigenous first. And a lot of people have forgotten that. And even the land that we occupied in Zuccotti is hallowed ground. And there used to be Indian burial grounds there. And there probably are, deep within the earth, still remains underneath those layers of concrete. That was where they started. And we came in and we pillaged it all. And we continue our pillaging. We have learned nothing from the accidents and the disasters. We seem to learn nothing from the rising temperatures. We learn nothing from these rare natural disasters such as Katrina and Sandy and the massive droughts that have swept over the nation this year. 2012, hottest year on record. These things are not coincidences, and I never believe in coincidences. But what I don't understand is why people are being so resistant to wanting to do something good. Why are people being so resistant to wanting to stand up? What is so hard about abandoning your 9 to 5 for a little while to go do something real, to go feel the earth under your feet, to go climb a tree that is threatened to be cut down, to go stand by a pipeline that is going to destroy your water? Where is the motivation? And where is the initiative? It shouldn't have to take Sierra Club to tell you. It shouldn't take 350.org to tell you. And it shouldn't have took the indigenous getting so fed up to the point where they have to start their own movement to fight back. This should have been going on a long time ago. And it's because people have just gotten too used to flipping that light switch and turning that faucet and flipping open that propane tank grill. You know, we've gotten so used to these things just being so readily available in an instant. We are a culture that is addicted to instant gratification. And what will happen to our culture when that is suddenly unavailable? That is the route that we are on. That is our trajectory. And I think that at this point, because we are so late in the game, and because the U.S. in particular is so far behind in our attempts to go green and to become energy efficient, such as Germany has, Germany is a little over 70% completely efficient on solar and wind power. That's pretty awesome. And Fox News apparently is making the excuse that the only reason Germany is more energy independent with solar in particular is because it's sunnier there. This is the kind of news that we get. This is the kind of crap that you get on your 6 o'clock news channel, whichever you flip to. This is the kind of crap that these people that are supposed to be informed and informing you, the public, so you, the public, can make better decisions. This was their job granted to them, that they are protected under the First Amendment, and that is what they're telling the public. I mean, we all knew Fox News lies, but Fox News is that stupid? I mean, this is as stupid as saying that Sarah Palin was able to see the meteors from her house that hit down in Russia. The strange meteor that nobody saw coming, that was shot out of the sky and ruined 6 cities. You know, this is the kind of thing. Strange phenomena is happening all over the world. It's not just the U.S. climate that's being affected. This climate exists all around the earth in real time. And until we start wrapping our minds around that concept, that the U.S. is not in a bubble, and that we cannot consider just our actions and our policies in our economy as setting the precedent, it's more of the global economy and the butterfly effect, and the fact that what happens in the polar ice caps affects here. What happens in another Amazon rainforest that's being destroyed also happens here. And we're not able to connect ourselves to the people of other nations. We're sure as hell not able to connect ourselves to the climate. of other nations and how other people are being so deeply affected by some of the drilling and the destruction that we are contributing to that is affecting their world. So what it comes down to is take what I've said as you will. I feel that this is a subject I cannot speak more frankly and more honestly about. We can all have our opinions on politics, the media, certain social media groups, certain activist groups, religious groups. We can all debate and take a stance there. But I'm sorry, you are not going to debate me on this issue. This is a crisis. We're not taking it seriously enough. We're not doing enough about it. The scientists are being ignored. This pipeline will cause catastrophic destruction to our country. And if you guys want to sit back with the rest of the world and do nothing about it, fine. But I'm traveling the country right now in a beat up van with 3 other people, doing this show and traveling to these places and going without amenities and living without all the things that you guys take for granted all over the country and all over the world in developed nations. We have to bathe wherever we can find water. We have to use bathroom facilities in McDonald's. We have to reuse everything because we don't have a lot. And while we recycle a lot out of necessity, I'm glad to do it. And I think it's something everyone should learn. We shouldn't have to wait till we come to a crisis point to learn how to treat our earth with respect. And that's what it comes down to for me. Is that the only reason that we've gotten to this point is because of complacency and a lack of awareness. And even if you have the awareness, it is then a lack of follow through and motivation to do something. And if you are one of those people who just gets emails and signs the petitions, that's not enough either. So I'm going to cut this rant a little bit short today because I am very, very tired, and I just wanted to talk briefly a little bit about Occupy Bus Tour and some of the things that we've been through in the last week. Jack and I and Stacy and Ed were in a car accident this week, and we did lose the camper that we were traveling with, this camper that we had been blogging about, that we had been working on for 2 months. And we were sideswiped by a UPS truck, according to police reports. And we fishtailed and uncontrollably veered off the highway into a ditch, into the guardrail, and the camper was totaled as a result. So we are still reeling from that quite a bit and trying to kind of regroup and recuperate from that loss. And it isn't so much the loss of the thing itself, but more just all the hard work and all of the things that we wanted to do with that camper, and things that I am holding on hope that we can still do. I believe we can still serve food. I believe we can still travel to all the places we wanted to travel. However, it is a setback nonetheless, and it's taken a lot out of all of us. But luckily, we have a beautiful place that we're staying in North Carolina, and I am so honored to be here and to be welcomed into this home. So I will be getting a good rest tonight. But being out on the road, we're going to see a lot of what has happened to the heartland and a lot of what has happened to our beautiful natural landscape, which is changing so quickly. And the lack of trees, the cleared land, the dirty rivers, the garbage and debris, the lack of being able to stargaze at night because of all the air pollution and the light pollution, honestly, and the noise pollution. It's amazing how much you start to notice it when you go through quieter patches. And I will be riding a lot on the road, and we will be streaming a lot once we get to our bus, which is waiting for us in Asheville. So we will be heading to Asheville in a couple days to pick up our newly converted vegetable oil bus, and then we will be heading back to Florida to drop off the van that has survived and going back up to New York to install solar panels. And our goal really with this trip is to be a beacon of inspiration and to be an example and a model that this is an alternative, and it's not the easiest alternative, but it is an option nonetheless that we are living out ourselves. And I really hope you guys enjoy following us on that journey. wherever it leads us, and whether we stay together the whole way or we part and new occupiers or bus tourists come along for the journey, we will be documenting it along the way. And I feel that this trip is bringing me closer to the earth, and getting to see what's been done to her, and it's so disheartening. It really affects me deeply. And after staying on 186 acres all summer last year, I can never take this earth for granted, and I sympathize with Jackie and the indigenous people everywhere who have felt the greed come to their front door, and it's absolutely devastating to me. It's so sad, and I was born into this world, so even though I did not have a hand in it, my ancestors did, and I suffer the guilt as a result anyway. So to wrap up this program, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you haven't already seen our footage from the rally, please watch it. It is good, and there were a lot of great moments, and there were a lot of other great things that were said. There was one other quote that I thought I wanted to leave you guys with, and that was what this one speaker mentioned, but I believe he was from the Hip Hop Caucus, and he said, "Stop being chumps." And he said that to the youth, he said that to the old, to the young, to everyone. Stop being chumps. Don't be chumps. And I think what he's trying to say is, we can't sit on this anymore. We need to act, and we need to do it because this is urgent. It is urgent. And I know that a lot of what I say is with a sense of urgency, but the planet is the top priority, and it comes before any economy. It comes before any corporate interest, before any special interest, and it certainly comes before a president's legacy. And at the end of the day, I don't care what his legacy is. It's about what my legacy is and what your legacy can be, and what our legacy as the generation that potentially stopped climate change from destroying ourselves. It could be the generation that left that legacy, but only time will tell, guys, so stick with us. JNL Live will be broadcasting as we get on the road, and as we get to the bus, we'll probably do updates from Asheville, so stay tuned for updates on our Twitter about that. And once again, if you're already not following it, definitely check us out on our Twitter handle at JAK_NLAUREN, and send us any tweets or fun stuff. And you can, of course, hop up on our Facebook pages. Also check out Occupy Bus Tour at wordpress.com. That's our blog. We also have a Facebook page. If you look up Occupy Bus Tour, it's pretty easy to find. And Ed and Stacy and Jack and I have all been working really hard to try to get posts out there. So thank you so much, guys, once again for watching. And I will see you on the road. Thanks so much.